All right, welcome to the Krueg Show, everybody, as we get things rolling on a Friday morning. Chase Senior in the house. We're striking up the band. Niners win big in Seattle. Dominant first half. Third quarter, not so much. But then the Niners with the fourth quarter touchdown to add one more on top, and the 49ers win going away against the Seattle Seahawks, and now it is time for the Philadelphia Eagles. Chase, good to see you, man. What'd you think of the win last night?
Yeah, I thought it was really impressive how they started that game. I thought that they really set the tone and the momentum of it. They dictated the game flow early on. And I know that there was a little bit of that lull there stretching from the end of the second quarter into the third quarter. And then Brock Purdy just drops that dime to Brandon Aiyuk to really salt the game away on what was an absolutely terrific throw, dropping it right in the bucket, pinpoint precision to Aiyuk, right in between four defenders of that Seattle Seahawks zone defense. And you got to give props to how the defense played. They continued to pressure and sack the quarterback. That's 3 games in a row where they've really been eating up along that front. And Charvarius Mooney-Ward, I thought, had his best game in a Niners uniform last night, being able to stick with DK Metcalf.
And the Niners got a little payback because one of the things that rubs Niner fans wrong was that during the Harbaugh era, Richard Sherman and the Seahawks ate turkey on the 50 at Levi's. And people were like, it was bad enough to lose, but they ate turkey at the 50, And so last night, I guess Deebo Samuel and George Kittle and Brock Purdy got a chance to maybe eat a little turkey at the 50. And I think Deebo might have thrown his drumstick into the stands. But it was a great win all around for the 49ers. A lot of people will point to the defense and say, man, it was the defense that led the way. And the defensive line definitely dominated Seattle's offensive line. But I thought that the play calling, the rhythm, the attack, the offense in the first half was just ripping off huge chunks of yardage by run, by pass. Purdy, Deebo, CMC, Kittle, Aiyuk. I mean, they were all involved. What did you think of the Niner offense?
Thought it was terrific. I loved a lot of the pre-snap motion, a lot of the window dressing, a lot of the play calls at opportune times to really take advantage of what Seattle was doing on the defensive side of the ball. I thought Kyle Shanahan, as the young folks would say, was in his bag last night. And the Niners offense was just so versatile. And I think this is a really good sign going into this Eagles game, is that San Francisco is really just clicking on all cylinders, not just offensively, but defensively. Their defensive line has been eating. The linebacking core is always going to be good with Fred Woerner and Dre Greenlaw. Once again, they were wreaking havoc from sideline to sideline. The defensive secondary, I think, has really turned it around, and it all has happened because they benched Isaiah Oliver, moved Diamador Lenore into the slot. Ambry Thomas has been cooking on the outside in addition to Charvarius Ward. But going back to what San Francisco is doing offensively, they were so multiple. And when they're that multiple, they're so diverse and versatile, they're so difficult to stop. Because last night, George Kittle doesn't do much, but it was another Deebo Samuel fantastic performance against Seattle. He always seems to play well against them and the Los Angeles Rams. He gets up for these games in the NFC West as a running back, as a wide receiver. Shanahan went to him often. Brandon Aiyuk was somewhat silent up until he caught that touchdown. Jawan Jennings made that really critical play in which he dragged a couple of defenders for that critical third down conversion early in the game, which I thought was really important. But what San Francisco was doing, Seattle had no answers. And I thought in between the 20s, they were able to run the football at will, which then set up a couple of play action passes for Purdy to take shots downfield. And then in the red zone, I thought that Kyle Shanahan dialed up some really, really clever and creative play calls. And now you put all that on tape going up against the Eagles, and you look at this Niners team, I just think that they're so difficult to stop when they're operating and clicking like that, when they're more of kind of that balanced offense as compared to having to fight back in games, coming back from behind, and they become a little bit more pass happy.
A couple guys that really stood out on offense. Charlie Woerner.
Yeah,
I thought Charlie Woerner was fantastic. He got Pro Football Focus's highest grade from the offense, but I just love their 2 tight end look in the run game. Werner's not, a blow you out of the hole kind of a tight end, but man, he will lock on, keep driving his feet, and he's an excellent wall off blocker, positional blocker. He's a try hard guy. right now, I think one kind of underrated aspect of what the Niners are doing is the Woerner Kittle combo are giving them quite a bit in the blocking in the run game as blockers.
Yeah, I agree. And how about some of the special teams plays that San Francisco made as well? And one of the really good special teams plays was by Charlie Woerner on that punt, where Dallas kind of dropped the punt, but then Woerner punched it away. Ronnie Bell was able to recover it. That was also a big play in the football game, too. It didn't really result in San Francisco scoring a touchdown, if I remember correctly, but all those plays just kind of serve as momentum changers. And sticking with special teams really quickly, last week they activated Darrell Luter Jr. He makes that huge tackle on the kick return coverage on D. Eskridge to save 4 points on the board. And then they activated Samuel Womack to the active roster before the game, and he downed one of those punts inside the 5. And I know that some people don't think that special teams are that important. I really do think that at moments it does serve as a third of the game. Mitch Wishnowsky has been fantastic as a punter this year with some of those coffin corner punts and being able to pin the offense deep. And for Darrell Luter Jr., Samuel Womack, Charlie Woerner to make plays like that were very impactful, that's what championship teams do. Up and down the roster from guy 1 to guy 53, obviously those numbers change on game day. You want everybody to kind of put their fingerprints on the game. And that's what I was really encouraged by in this game for San Francisco last night, is that everybody was finding a way to make an impact. And the team right now is just finding ways to contribute. But I'm with you. A couple of those plays that Charlie Woerner made, and when you look back at it on the stat sheet, they're not going to look like they were that integral throughout the course of the game, but some of those 2 tight end sets allows you to confuse the opponent a little bit, because if you're in 12 personnel, they're not sure if a running play is coming, but then you can operate play action off of that 12 personnel. Kittle can go out as a pass catcher, Woerner can go out as a pass catcher, or they can be a blocker in that formation as well. It's just the diversity to this offense right now that has allowed Kyle Shanahan to kind of keep defenses off guard a little bit, and Charlie Woerner has certainly played a part of that.
Yeah, the other guy who I thought, if you said, give me your number one takeaway on this game, I would say, well, man, the Niner D-line, since they added Chase Young, has just been crazy good. Hargrave is now playing like Hargrave. Armstead is probably never played better. I mean, Armstead was fantastic. I don't care what the Pro Football Focus grade they gave him a pretty low grade. Or no, I guess no. Actually, no. They gave him an 82.2, so he got him. That's a good grade actually for Armstead. He got one of the higher grades for the D lineman, but he's played the last 2 games at such a high level. But the guy, to me, if you said what really stood out, because I expected the Niners got 61 pressures in the last 3 games against Seattle, so the Niner D line has dominated their O line, and it happened again in this game. But the one that I wasn't sure of, and the thing that to me was the overwhelming positive, is the way that Ambry Thomas is playing on the corner. He was the Niners' highest graded player of the game. They gave him Pro Football Focus gave him a 90.2 overall grade. He had a 90.5 coverage grade. He allowed just 2 catches for 16 yards on 4 targets. He got a pick, and the pick that he had was just a real high level interception. And when they were targeting Ambry, Geno had a 20.8 passer rating. Ambry Thomas is coming of age at exactly the right time for the 49ers.
Yeah, and I think this whole defensive turnaround coming out of the bye, I alluded to this a little bit earlier, but that lineup change has really improved this Niners secondary. And during that 3-game losing streak to Cleveland, Minnesota, and Cincinnati, San Francisco couldn't generate consistent sacks on the quarterback, and then they weren't tied up with the back end. They just weren't in sync. And I think over the bye week, they were able to examine a couple of things. And this defensive line coming out of the bye week has been outright dominant, just taking over games and dominating the opposing offensive line. But in that secondary, you bench Isaiah Oliver, who in the previous 4 games going into the bye week had allowed a completion rate of 100%, second lowest graded cornerback in the NFL going into the bye. You bench him. You put Diamador Lenore, whose lack of height, I think, has him better suited to play in the slot. Charvarius Ward has played really good football over the last couple of weeks, but Ambry Thomas has been awesome. And really in the last 3 weeks, he's given this defense a massive boost. And in coverage yesterday, you talk about the 2 catches allowed, only 16 yards, 2 pass breakups, an interception, 1 forced incompletion, a passer rating against of 20.8. And going back to that interception that you were talking about, that was an instinctual play. You know, he read the eyes of Geno Smith, and he's defending Tyler Lockett. He makes a break on the football, and that's a high-level type of cornerback instinctual play. And Ambry Thomas has been doing this over the last 3 weeks. So this defense is better because of his emergence and his play. And I think back to that game against Jacksonville when him and Steve Wilkes had that kind of like emotional, pumped-up interaction on the sideline. And to me, it looked like Wilkes was saying to him, this is the type of player that you can be. You were a 3rd-round pick for a reason. I have a defensive back background. I can bring the best out of you. You just need to be a little bit more consistent. And then Ambry Thomas kind of responded by saying, look, I told you I can do this. Thank you for giving me an opportunity. And he's taken advantage of this opportunity. The biggest thing with him to start his career, it's just been lapses. It's been inconsistency, but he has been a consistent player on that outside, and it's really helped take this defense to the next level.
Yeah, no, he looks fantastic, and the Luter, Womack, Ambry, suddenly their defensive backfield looks a lot more energetic and a lot faster